Hello, beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is, and I want to do a spin, but I'm in between a picnic table right now where the bench is, so Starlight doesn't want to hurt herself out here, and besides, I got one heck of a mess out here. Starlight is cooking, and so right now I am going to make a video for tonight, and sorry about that. So anyway, I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is, and really right now it's really all the time, let love guide you, not fear. Don't be afraid, and there's going to be many challenges. We all face these things, and Starlight does, that person over there, that, you know, everyone in this park, we're always, all of us at one point or another. Sometimes it's, you know, so you don't want to give that energy to that fear. You want to, you know, trust and believe that everything is going to be okay, and you're going to get through whatever you're going through. And so hang on, you know, don't give in to the fear, because that's exactly what they want you to do, is to be afraid. And when we're afraid, that's when shit happens in our reality, you know, because we create our reality, whether you like it or not. And it doesn't mean it's always a bad thing. Sometimes, you know, even like in a dream, it might look like a scary dream, but really the interpretation is great. So anyway, I love you. That is part of my introduction there. And also thank you to all of you who have been here loving and supporting Starlight. And Starlight has been really shifting things on our YouTube channel because of the stuff that's going on in the news. So this is another video to help people that might not really know themselves. You know, they might not know themselves, or they might think they know themselves. And so that's what this video is about today. But before I start that video, if anyone would like, well, I want to say thank you to all of you who have been here loving and supporting the Starlight. Those of you who subscribed, and if you haven't subscribed, this is just a reminder, a friendly reminder. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way, you know, my channel will grow to be able to help more people. And if you want more, you know, this is what it's about. It's giving each other a hand. I am out here making videos every day and putting information of things that I went through hell with, you know, the wisdom and knowledge. So this stuff wasn't easy to get, the wisdom and the knowledge that I have on these videos. No, Starlight had to go through some shit to get these videos, you know, or I learned a lot from my mentor. But, you know, it's challenging. This is not supposed to be an easy, fun ride here, but it can be interesting and fun at times. So I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you who give me thumbs up. Leave me a comment. Thank you, those of you who leave Starlight a comment. And please, this is so important, to share these videos. It's so important. Share them with your family. Share them, you know, on whatever media is out there. Starlight really doesn't know a whole lot out there as far as sharing stuff, like my content. So I have lots to learn. And thank you to all of you. And before I start this video, if anyone would love to send any love donations, you can through my Cash App, and I will have that information here. Ping, there it is. And before I start this video, I'm sorry, I'm out here, sometimes I feel like bugs are biting. They might be biting. So Starlight is out here cooking. Wait, I am out here making a video and cooking. I don't know what I just said, because I have a lot out here to do and clean up. So anyway, I love you so much. And so today's video is about, what path are you taking? Ouch! What path am I taking? I know what path I'm taking. So what path are you taking? You know, there's many paths in this reality, but when it comes down to it, when it really breaks down, there's two paths, you know? You're either going, you know, this path over here or this path over here. And a long time ago, sorry, I feel like a bug is biting me. But a long time ago, I did artwork, and I don't have my artwork with me now. I don't even know where any of that went. But I was drawing pictures of, you know, we all have a choice in life, you know. And so that's why I don't want you to feel guilty about things that you've done in the past. maybe you do feel guilty of things. There's times that, there's things that we did some horrible things, but the question is, sorry, because I'll tell you, the question is, if you feel guilty about stuff that you did in the past, number one, you got to let it go. Number two, I have a question. Did you learn anything? What did you learn? If you felt really bad about something that you might have tried, you might have got tempted to do something. There's people that do things that they get in jail. They actually, they go in prison, for things that they did, and it has consequences, So anything that we do, there's consequences to what we do. And that is what hang on, I'm going to actually stand back a little bit further because, so Starlight's just going to shift everything over more. Is because there's, I feel like something's hitting my leg here. So in this lifetime, like when I started out, when you're, everything starts like, when you get out of your mother's womb, the baby is so super smart, and, super smart up to 7 years old, and not saying that they're dumb after that. No, they're super, super smart from the womb all the way until 7 years old. And so the child, those babies, are learning a lot of stuff from, they're learning right away, they're studying the parents, the mom and the dad, so they are super smart, they want to cry about something, they might not, they just want to be held, they want to have you hold them all day long, and so I know when I started off with my daughter, because she was the first one, it was really challenging. The first one's always the challenge, but that doesn't mean that the second one won't challenge your ass either, because you never know. So when they're born, I don't know if you ever notice this. Come on, you got to notice this. I've actually heard stories about this too. Now this is only Starlight guessing. This is nothing that I can prove or anything, but I believe that I've been here many times, okay? And there's people that, they gave their self to Christ, hang on, I think, my it's funny, I turned my butane off and it ran out of stuff anyway, so it was perfect timing. But now this is Starlight guessing. This is only guessing. Is because I've seen stuff, witnessed things in my reality, we might see this out at a store. You might actually know somebody that you're related to, and like, have you ever like witnessed something with a baby and like, what the heck, that cry, that crazy ass cry, what the heck is up with that child? When they get mad, they get mad. Okay. Now, I've heard stories from people and they took pictures of their child, and it's amazing some of the things that I learned through this. And so, like, because of my life, the way it's been here, I believe in my, because this is where, when I used to go to church, there was a lot of things being twisted in the Word of God and being taught when I was going, and I never even really put all the pieces together, when I was, sometimes it's like, oh, that's what they told me, so I'm going to believe everything they told me. Well, when I went to church, I knew, like, if I when I did in 95 is when I accepted Jesus, and I repented of all my sins, of course. Did I really repent of all of them? How many there would have been? But I repented of, being unworthy and, having sin in my life, that's, and I didn't really know what I was doing at that time, but I didn't want to go to hell, and it was kind of funny because that was the first lie that I was told, hey, you're going to go and burn in hell, so I was afraid, but I'm like, and then I had people saying, well, Jesus died on the cross, so we didn't have to go to hell. So I'm thinking, wait a minute. So I'm bringing all these things up. So if I, and I did, I repented, I accepted Jesus in my heart to cleanse me from my sins, and I trusted, believed in that 95, and I'll tell you, when I got saved, because a year later on, bam, I'm already looking out, like I had to get out of an abusive relationship, and I was so, I had to, it took time, but I wanted to learn about Jesus. Nobody told me nothing. I wasn't, nobody was trying to get me in a church, but I wanted to learn about Jesus. So anyway, with that being said, now I gotta not forget about the child thing, where I'm going with that. So now when I accepted Jesus in my heart, they said I would have eternal life. What does that mean? Does that mean that, like in this lifetime, I go through life up and down, going through this, going, left, right, turn, all, and then I die and I go in the ground and that's it? Well, I'll tell you what I was being taught in church, it's kind of what they were, I never really questioned, I kind of, it's like a book, like somebody writing a book, and, I just read some of it, and I never finished the rest of the book, like the eternal life. How do you get eternal life? How does that work? How do you, so I believe in past lives. My whole time growing up, even when I started learning about the Bible, like things were, nobody taught me this stuff, but I was like, I heard different pieces of information. My brother said stuff, but I was like thinking that, I had been here before. I knew this growing up, and but so I'm imagining that the last life that I've been here, the past life that I've been here, is that I was a Christian in the past time, my past lifetime. But then I got to go through, and I had to pick this certain family. Did I pick my family? Yes, I picked this family because that's what I signed up for, is I had to pick this family, kind of turning dark into light, and keeping my heart right with my family. And so being born in that family and now where I am today, so we are gonna forget, our memory got erased from our past lifetime. So when you get, through your mother's womb, bam, now it's all fresh and start. You don't remember anything from, but we do have bits and pieces. There are people that do remember bits and pieces, like I had, like, bits and pieces of different things, like knowing I was here before. Many times I knew I was here many times. Sorry about that annoying ice cream truck music. So anyway, so now, throughout, when I started out getting in trouble, with boys doing all kinds of naughty stuff when I was, starting out, and that's why it's not a bad thing that we go and try things, because that's how we're going to find out who we really truly are, is we're going to be tested and, tempted in so many different ways. Like even when I went to the cult church, is that that was a test for me. Was I going to just sit in there and be a part of the church and try to get more people? And I was there for 7 years begging God to help me to get the freak out of that church. So when you do something, and even if you feel guilty about it, it's not really a bad thing. It's what did you learn about it? That's and this will determine really who you are as a human being. Are you of light? This is starlight. I am of light energy, and I had to let go of my flaws, face my shadows and all this stuff. And through time, I've decided, when I started living for God, that never changed. Yeah, I have done horrible stuff after I got out of the cult church, because I had to unprogram myself from all the things that they programmed me. But you know what? All these twists and turns and ups and downs and the challenges and the things that people do to us, or things that we do to ourselves, Starlight's been there. I was my worst enemy, and I knew it, because I tried to end my life at the age of 10, all the way up until who knows what year, So, I was trying to end my life, even though I knew Jesus, even though I knew that I was, I am a Christian. But what path are you deciding to go on right now? Is because there's people that they could have been of a dark force when they were here in the past time, and then get born, and when they come out, that part, I believe, because I've heard stories of, and I've seen infants, coming out, and you hear them, the cries, they're horrible, and then that child grows up, and, I'm wondering, how did this child have, like, spirits, like, being born? So that's been something that I've watched, and, trying to understand, seeing different, different stories and different people that I've met or witnessed things out in public. A man that told me a story that I used to clean for, how he's like, wow, yeah, we don't know what the heck was up with our son at a certain age, and like, and I saw the picture, somehow or other they were able to capture this child, like, and he sounded like he was possessed, and I mean, like, it was horrible. But see, with that, we still can actually go and live for God, because we still have lessons, So I gave myself over to God, and then I got to go through it all over again, and like, get challenged and go through a lot of things to find out who I really am right now, because of what is going on right now. It is so vitally important to know, what path are you taking? Are you taking the path where God the Creator is, or are you taking the path of where Satan is? Because we all have this choice. I had, my whole life, I always called myself a good person my whole life. Was I perfect? Absolutely not. But I was always helping people. I was always being there. I always had a heart for people. I used to work for handicapped people. I used to, like, go out like an angel and try to stop shit happening out in public. I'm like, I gotta jump in and help out. I don't know why I'm like that. But I just helped a man the other day, and it was horrible. I believe he was a veteran. He was into the Walmart parking lot. He had one of those chairs, that electric chairs, so then he can, he had a cane with him. And he didn't know, and I didn't know, so I learned something that day, is I went and put a few things in my car, and I noticed the guy who was in the middle of the parking lot, where people would come through that way to park their cars, and he's in the middle, and he's got his chair, but he's not going anywhere. And I'm watching him, I'm like, something doesn't look right here, Starlight. And so anyway, I stopped what I was doing, and I went to go and check on this man, that I believe he's a veteran. He had a hat on. Most people, they advertise, hey, I'm a veteran, or they have shirts, but that's what I noticed when I met this man. And nobody was helping him out. There he is, he's got the chair, and I don't know what his condition is as far as walking goes. He's got the cane, he's got groceries, have you ever done that? Have a cane, having walking problems, and you got groceries to carry at the same time? Yeah. So anyway, Starlight stopped what she was doing to help this man. He goes, I appreciate you coming. Nobody was even coming to help me. Thank you for coming here to help me out, because nobody was. And I'm sorry, I got like something landed on my back. So I've always, it is something. So I've always been like that. So I have given myself over to God many times. Even after I got saved, I rededicated myself to God so many times. And right now it's the point that not too long ago, is that I let people know is that nobody, I know where I'm going, and that is why I'm here right now on my YouTube channel, is to help people, because these end times right now is I've been prepared for this my whole life. There's no accidents or coincidence. Like my family, my family, because of the crap that I came from, that actually has given me the tools to use for the times right now. So it was no accident that I had to go. That's the part of the deal. But of course, most of the stuff, you're going to forget a lot of the things, and it gets wiped out. And so I do believe that, there definitely that people do come through the portal, and they could be of a dark energy. They might have actually, in their past lifetime, they might have gave their self over to the devil, the Satan, say, hey, yeah, and then they get reborn again, and they still have a chance to get right, and decide, hey, I don't, they could learn lessons and decide, you know what, I don't want to go that way, you know. So sometimes what happens to people, and this is why I'm making this video, sometimes people are in the middle of it. Here they are, they're in the middle, and they don't know what way they want to go. They're like, I can go that way, or I can go that way. I can go, I'm going to say the right hand is God's way, or I can go Satan's way. And so because these people that they, because I do know people that struggled with this, they went to church, they did get saved, you know, that's what happens sometimes. People, you know, if they're not real and if they're not being honest, you know, they could make it look good. And that's the whole thing when you go to church. A lot of times it's a lot of acting going on. So this happens to a lot of people where they're like, you know, I don't want to be the person that doesn't raise their hand and says, I want to get saved, I want to know God. So I'm going to, you know, instead of, you know, I don't want people to think that I don't want God, so I'm going to, you know, this happens to a lot of people, a lot of kids. There's kids that, you know, there's all around the world, there's kids that get beaten, you know, because the parents want them to live for God. Well, how is that supposed to work? So you're acting like the devil to accept Jesus Christ? That's wicked. That is wicked. You don't need to, you know, because I came from a church like that to beat your children to accept. No, they have to accept Jesus in their hearts willingly without anybody beating them to force them to do that. You know, you could, you know, people could beat their children, which should they really, you know, to get them to live for God. But if the child's not real with what they're doing, if they're just doing it out of being forced to do it, then you're not really you know, you're damaging the child even more. So that's a lesson for that child to learn, is like, wow, man, they beat me. They wanted me to live for God, but they were beating me to try to force me to do that, you know, against my free will, you know, because God gave us a free will. You got to decide, and at these times right now, it's so important to decide on, are you going to go that way? That's where it started. Like, I'm already there. I'm already here. That's why I'm here. You know, my whole life, this has been the way God is, you know, there's no accidents or coincidences. No matter, everything happens for a reason, even if we don't understand it, you know. I've been homeless many times, starting off at the age of 16. And I'm only saying that because some of you are new and you don't know my other stories, my other videos. So, and there's been many times that I've been homeless on this, in this reality here. So, so eternity, that doesn't that mean like, you know, you're going to live for eternity? Doesn't that mean how you going to live for eternity? So churches have taught me that, you know, they didn't really, it was like that, I was saying, like that book, you know, it was like the book, somebody wrote a book and it just stopped there, but nobody ever explained, well, how do I live for eternity? You know, because I always kind of thought, you know, coming back here, you know, like a new creature, you know, a new multi-spiritual being having a human experience, coming back on planet Earth and redoing all over again and going through different, you know, just keep on learning lessons, you know, kind of cleanse yourself each time that we come here. But we always have that choice, and, you know, there's always going to be a choice that if we don't make the right choices, we could, you know, maybe we're not going to learn the lesson, you know. And so there's people that I believe they do get born, and they already in their past life, they might have already accepted, you know, they didn't worship God, they didn't accept Jesus. They could have pretend, and then they went and spiraled down, and that's how they didn't really quite make it to really being real and authentic. Because I know people, when they were babies, they were always pretending. They were the actors and the actresses, and like many of us, that's what it is. We're a bunch of actors and actresses not being real and authentic. And so that is what, that's why all these lessons in this reality is so important, because it will break you down. It will really find out who you really are, and it will help you to decide on what path you do want to take. Do you want to follow the world? You know, that's Satan. Or do you want to, you know, let go, you know, clean up your life, forgive people, get right with God? You know, things that you've done in the past, don't feel guilty about those. Those are things that you know, that's why, you know what, I've done a lot of crazy ass shit in my past, and it could have gotten found out, and it might, I don't know, you know, And I'm like, you know what? If somebody brings it up, I'm like, you know what? I don't even care about that shit anymore. You know, I what I did way back then doesn't even matter. It's who I am today. It's who I'm, you know. That was me, like, in what year was that? You're really bringing up that? Really, do you got anything right now? Because it doesn't matter the shit I did when I was younger. I got right with myself and I got right with God. That's what matters. So we all have a choice in this reality what path you're going to take, you know, and it really, that's why, you know, the choices that we make, that's why you got to listen to yourself, because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of fallen angels out here that, you know, the devil never can physically touch you, but spirits can enter into people, or even, like I believe, you know, can come through the portal into, you know, a womb and start all over and come here, and they don't know who they are, but eventually time will, you know, they will still have that chance again, see if they want to accept Jesus in their heart, you know, and have God to, it's, I'll tell you what, on this journey, it's better to surrender and let God, because I'll tell you, there's nothing more amazing than what I'm going through right now. And yes, it does has its ups and downs, it has its twists and turns, but you know what? The freedom and the happiness and the joy, unconditional love, and this is amazing what I'm experiencing in this reality. And believe me, when I started out, I was kicking and screaming. You know, my apartment, leaving my apartment, my business, everything, my family, leaving my home, all this stuff, you know what? But in time, God had a plan. It wasn't mine. I signed up for this. I signed up for this. So it's all up to you, really, what path you're going to take. And you can't blame other people on where you find yourself, you know, because we have to take our power back and not let other people tell us what to do. And that's why it's so important to listen to yourself, do what makes you happy, and make sure it's safe, because there's a lot of things that could make you happy. Temporal happiness, you know, where it feels good at the time, but later on it's a bitch, you know, so yeah, there's times people go out and they fornicate like dogs, but you know what? There's consequences to that stuff, you know? Going out to the bar scene, there's consequences to all those. Yeah, it feels good, don't it? But later on, you know, when you watch your life and see how many years gone by and you didn't even find out who you are. So I love you so much. This is Starlight, namaste. This is Starlight, love, light, and peace. Thank you for watching. This is Starlight, namaste. This is Starlight, love, light, and peace.